designer works on three tools. A developer. So that is a designer, a workflow manager, and a workflow monitor, which we have been using till date. And now, as an administrator, we'll be using the next two. That is a repository manager and administration console. Repository manager is more of a client-driven tool, and admin console or administrator console is run on the Internet Explorer, IE. Okay, try more of the administration console, and maybe we'll also pick up the repository manager somewhere in between, because when we'll talk about users and folders, we'll even have a look how it happens there. Okay, now administration console is somewhat that you would see here in this snapshot. It is all driven within the IE, so you don't have a GUI tool. You just open up an Internet Explorer, go to a particular port number, connect, and it would prompt you with this authentication screen at the first to log in. Okay, so as the slide says, it's more of an administration tool to administer the Power Center domain. Okay, so a couple of new keywords, we'll come to that as well in the short. This is an example of the string or address that you'll have. So you have a host, you have a port, and then you have admin console. So this name is fixed. So when you log in, this is how your URL looks like. Okay, now once you log in, okay, let's do one thing. Let me also open up in parallel. So now I'm actually connecting to the administration console that you have here. So once you log in, your version 8.6 will first take you to this introduction screen here. So here in this screen you have a lot of options, more of like shortcuts available. So if you want to configure something, you can straight away click on this link called Configuration Assistant. If you want documentation, you click here. If you would like to upgrade your repository, let's say from earlier versions to this version, or from this version to the next, which would come in the market, you can use the upgrade wizard, documentation for this, and this is the main link, which once clicked would take us to the administration console. So this is what we'll remember for now. Now, I'll have to log in, sorry, because I would like to show you the different tabs we are speaking about. So I'll say click on administration console. So now we are gonna land straight onto the administration console welcome tab sort of thing. So this is the main page that you'll see here. Okay, now probably, okay, so a lot of things. Let me see how to start. So let's first talk about a couple of things here before we move to the presentation. As I was saying, tabs. So these are the different tabs you have here. Right now I'm on the domain tab. Another tab is there called logs. Then you have a tab called permissions, and you have a tab called reports. Okay, and then for each of these components, what happens, this is a domain. So we'll see what a domain is in a short while. But then within the domain, you have a lot of these services available. And for each service, you'll have similar tabs here. Like one will be called an overview tab. You'll have a properties tab, permissions tab, or maybe log management tab. So you'll have different tabs here. Okay. Now, as I said, the different tabs. So let's see what happens. So first, I'll talk about the domain tab, where you were currently, looking at. So this is by default my domain tab, where I'll land in. So domain tag essentially will show me the properties of a domain. Okay, and it's more of a navigator. I'll also come down to a couple of terms like what a domain is, what a node is. Then another tab is a logs tab that helps you overlook the different logs which are being created. So even if you have some errors internally, that will be visible in the logs tab. Then you have an administration tab, which will help you set the permissions on the domain for different users. So we say these are domain users. Upgrade, it's probably visible with the name itself. And then one is called a manage account. This helps you to create domain user profiles. So you can change here the username, passwords, their profiles, email IDs, whatever you want to do. So this is the journal architecture. Okay. So when I talk of the administration, like every architecture would have building blocks. Same is the case with Informatica. So essentially, when I talk of a setup on a machine or on a server, you first have something called as, so let's say you're trying to create a new administration, you're trying to create a new Informatica architecture altogether in your organization. So what you'll have first is a physical server, right? Or what we would call as a machine, where you would have all those memory and other resources available. So let's call it as machine server. Okay, so this is a server machine. Now on top of it, you would install an Informatica, which would then run as services. On top of our operating system. So when I talk about the core components into Informatica, you first have something called as a node. Okay, so node corresponds to a physical machine here. So I said a node has went up. I think node is also there in your databases, right? You say a node has gone up or a node has gone down.
Yeah, basically we say node, so we keep one instance actually, yeah.
Okay, right. So here Informatica calls the keyword here is called node. So node represents a physical machine, not just a virtual, but a physical machine where all your resources are residing. Then on top of a node, you create your Informatica services. So I'll call it Informatica services. Now when you create Informatica services, internally again it follows an architecture where you first create a repository. So this is your repository. So you first create a repository, then right on top of a repository you would create the next service. That would be your repository service. So okay, I think maybe I'm not drawing it correctly. Repository should be shown more of a database symbol. So you're creating a database. On top of that database, what you have is your repository service. Well, it may not be that good when I try and write it, but let me know if you're not able to make sense here. Okay, so you have a physical node which corresponds to server machine. On top of it, you have a database, that's a repository running, and each repository database has a repository service which would interact with the repository database. And then you'll create an integration service. So this integration service would then help you interact with the repository service. So that's first of all the general architecture. Now this is my integration service, and here would sit all the client tools. So whatever client tools you have would send request to the integration service. Okay. Now within Informatica, this complete thing, I mean the node, repository service, integration service, the collection of this is called a domain. So as per Informatica, domain is just a virtual, oh it's just removed, sorry. Okay, so as per Informatica, domain is more of a logical encapsulation where you don't have anything physically present. Rather, domain is one single place where you can log in and you can administer or you can manage all these different components, which are integration service, repository service, and a node. So first, do you get now what a domain is?
Yeah, exactly. Domain has is consisting of server nodes, everything inside.
This is one central base where you log in and you administer. So that is only the functionality that a domain could offer. Internally, it would have nothing more than that. So therefore, when I would see here on the administration console, this is my domain. And domain itself would not have nothing, would not have anything apart from different components. So these are the different components which would comprise a domain finally.
Okay. See, but most of the cases, your repository in a database in a different server, and some of your tools may be in a, in your main app layer. So how it will consider as one domain?
Oh, okay, I get your point. So see, when I say one domain, essentially these services that you see within, right? It's not necessary that they should be present on the same server machine, first of all.
So it is. So basically, you are telling this is a logical.
Yes, it's a logical, and it's not dependent on a physical node or a machine. It could be running on one of the nodes wherever your integration services are running, but the internal components could be on different boxes. Okay, so if I say, if I click on this, I'm not sure if it will be able to show me. Okay, for some reason they have a problem here in this setup they've done for me, but usually what happens is they should be able to show you the logs for different users who have logged on. How many times did you log in, what all did you do? No, it's not coming here. Maybe user domain audit. No, okay, maybe I'm not sure why they haven't configured this well, but essentially you should be able to see a user with different activities done over your architecture. Try and talk more in detail about this domain tab where you are currently present, that is see here. So let me first just talk about the overview of a domain, So you see here the overview, services running. Then you also have a tab for the domain, that's properties. So this will show me the property for the domain, not the internal